Oh, hey. Happy birthday.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. 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 Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Dharma Family Service. We'd like to begin the service with Sutra Chanting. So we'll be chanting Juseige, which is on page 23 in the small purple book, and it'll be up on the screen too, but it might not be so visible if you're in the room. But if you're online, you can chant along with what's on the screen. And just realize we'll be chanting Namo Amida Butsu at the end instead of Namanda, which is in the book. But you can just follow along. Namanda, 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 Namanda. Shogak Gao Munyoko Fui Dai Seshu Fusai Shobingu Seifu Joshogak Gashi Jobutsudo Myosho Chojipo Kukyo Mishomon Seifu Joshogak Ryokujin Shonen Joe Shubongyo Shigumu Jodo Isho Teninshi Jinniki and Daiko Fushomu Saido Shoujo Sankumyo Kosai Shuyakunan Kaiichi Egen Meshi Konmoan Heisoku Sho Akudo Tsudatsu Zen Shumon Koso Jomanzok Iyoro Jippo Nichigatsu Shujuki Tenko Ompugen Ishukai Hozo Koseku Dokuho Jodai Shuchu Seppo Shishiku Kuyoi sai butsu gu soku shu toku hon gane shitsu joman toku i sangayo nyobutsu mugechi tsudatsu mi fusho gangaku erik toshi sai shoson shiganya koka daisen okando koku shoten to uchimyo ke namandabu 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 Gamni shikudoku byodo seisai dohoten bodaishin ojo an dakok. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Namo. Okay. Next, let's recite the three treasures, and it is on page 3 in the small purple book. Ooh, okay. Good. The three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma, now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves your supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Namanda. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to deliver the Dharma message, so boom. Here's a nice picture, if I do say so myself, that I took out in front of the church the other day. The flowers are blooming, the birds are chirping. It doesn't seem like it today so much because it's kind of foggy morning, cloudy, overcast morning, but it has been, the weather's really been nice. And today I thought what I'd like to talk about, because we've had some new members come and maybe it's kind of review for some people, but maybe it's a new way to think about what we do at church. What do we do? Right? We're Buddhist. We come to the temple sometimes on Sundays. And so I just kind of wanted to look at this a little bit. Now, I teach a class at the Institute of Buddhist Studies. I teach one class per semester. And so this semester I'm teaching a class on what are called the 7 masters, or the 7 eminent monks. And these are people that Shinran, our founder, looked to for his doctrine, looked to understand Pure Land Buddhism, to understand Amida Buddha, to understand the Pure Land. And I've been talking about them a little bit over the past couple of months, because I put in so much effort into getting ready for class, and then I thought, well, why not share some of it when it's relevant to you all? So before, I've talked about Vasubandhu, and his name is Tenjin in Japanese, and then Tanluan, or Donnan. And so we've heard a couple of these sounds before. Shinran, right? So Shinran's characters, Shinran's name, comes from the Shin in Tenjin, or Sesshin is another way to say his name. Sesshin, so Shin, and then Don-ran, right? The Ran from Donnan or Tanluan. And that's where we get Shinran's name. But he had other names, and one of his other names is Zen Shin. So the Zen comes from Shandao, or Zendo, who I want to talk about today. And then the Shin comes from Genshin, who is one of the Japanese masters. He was a Tendai master, Tendai Pure Land master on Mount Hiei. And so you put those together and we get another name of Shinran, Zen Shin, coming from Zendo and Genshin. So it's kind of neat. When you get a Dharma name, you get Shaku something something, right? And so where those characters come from can be significant, right? And so for Shinran, or Zenshin as he was previously known, he has another name, Gutoku Shinran, right? And so all these characters have meaning in different ways. So who I'd like to talk about a little bit today is Shandao. He's one of the Chinese masters. In Japanese, he's Zendo Daishi, great teacher, Zendo. And he's, what, 7th century? 613 to 681 in the Common Era, right? So that's a long time ago, right? And he was even a long time before Shinran, too. But he had a really, really deep impact on Shinran. Here's a picture of him, if it'll come up. There. So this it might be kind of hard to see when you're here in the room, but this is a painting of Zendo or Shandao. And one of the neat things about this picture, if you can see, it's probably easier for people online than people in the room, but there's a figure standing there, and then there's little figures kind of to the upper left, right? Those are images of Amida Buddha. So that represents Shandao saying, Namo Amida Butsu, or Namo Mitofo. He probably said it in Chinese, right? And those images represent his Nembutsu, his saying the Nembutsu. That's what Shandao is most known for, bringing out the Nembutsu is most important. Nembutsu is entirely sufficient. It's the rightly established act, okay? And so what I want to talk about today, one of the things we do at temple, right, is something called practice. And different Buddhist schools have different kinds of practice. So if you're a Zen Buddhist, you might do Zazen, Soto Zen. You might do Zazen and sit really long times and meditate. Right? If you were Rinzai Zen, you might do koans. Right? If you're Nichiren Buddhism, you might chant the Daimoku, the title of the Lotus Sutra, and chant sections of the Lotus Sutra. But for us, we have the 5 right practices from Shandao. He determined we don't do stuff Lotus Sutra, we don't do stuff related to other Buddhas, we only do the stuff related to Amida Buddha. And then there are these 5 practices. So the first, reading and reciting the sutras. In our case, the Pure Land Sutras, the 3 Pure Land Sutras. So we just did that. When we did Juseige, when we recited Juseige, right, we read a section of the larger sutra of immeasurable life. So that's something we do. Now you can study too. You can go and get like an English book, translation of the sutras and read it and study it. So that's one way to read. But another way to read that we do every week, is reciting the sutras. That we do this together. This is what Buddhists have done. This is one of the things that maybe all Buddhists do and have done since the beginning of Buddhism, reciting Buddha's teachings. At first they did it so they could memorize it, because they had to memorize it because there was no writing in India at the time. And so this practice of remembering the sutras and reciting them, right, is this ancient Buddhist practice. Now we're lucky. We have books. You don't have to memorize it. Well, if you become a minister, you have to memorize some of them, right? But for us, most of the time, we don't have to have it memorized, and we can open the book and recite. So when we do Juseige, Sambutsuge, those are sections of the larger sutra. When we do Amida Kyo, we're reciting the entire sutra. Fortunately, it's the smaller sutra, so it doesn't take as long, but it's still 20 minutes, right? We used to do that a lot for Shotsuki. We'll probably start doing it again sometime. But this idea of reading and reciting the sutras is one of the things we do. Next, thinking of, visualizing or contemplating, and being mindful of Amida Buddha. Right? So that this is another thing. Now, back then, this meant doing it in your mind, making a picture of Amida Buddha and the Pure Land. So that's what one of the other sutras, the Contemplation Sutra, is about. It has all these instructions. First, face the west in the late afternoon and look at the setting sun. And then get it so that you can do that at any time, and you can see that in your mind, right? In your mind's eye, you see the sun. Then you start thinking about the other aspects of the Pure Land, the towers, the crystal ground, the birds, all this different stuff in the Pure Land, the gold, and then especially Amida Buddha. Right? And so trying to make these pictures in your head. Do we do that here? Have we ever done that? Not really, right? We don't have to sit and do it ourselves, but we kind of do. Up here, the Naijin. The Naijin represents the Pure Land, right? This is where Amida Buddha is. We have our Amida Buddha statue, right? And so the Pure Land is here. We don't have to visualize it on our own. That's part of what this Naijin is for, so that we can participate in this, right, without having to do the difficult practice of meditating and visualizing. Another could be translated as doing reverence. It's Dai Hai. Doing reverence or bowing is maybe more literal, worshiping. So this bowing that we do that a lot at temple, we haven't really gone over it so much, but there's very specific kinds of bows. We bow when we come into the hondo. We bow when we leave the hondo. We bow when we come up to do incense offering. After we put in the incense, we put our hands together in gasho and bow, and then we step back and we bow again, right? So lots of bowing. And if you see Reverend Endo and I, right, we bow probably even more, right? Because when we come into the Naijin, we bow in front of Shinran or Renyo on the other side. We bow next to Amida Buddha. We bow when we're opening up our books. We bow after we do the Sutra Chanting. Right? So we do a lot of bowing in our, it's a Japanese thing too, right? In Japan, they don't shake hands, they bow to each other, right? And I think it probably comes from Buddhism, right? That this Buddhist practice of bowing goes way, way, way back. Now here's number 4, reciting the name, saying the Nembutsu, right? That this is the most important one, right? And so this saying the Nembutsu. And then praising and offering. So that's another aspect of chanting, that we're praising the Buddha when we chant. When we say Nembutsu even, we can understand that as praising Buddha. When we offer incense, that's a kind of offering. When we have what do we have? We got donuts up here today as offering to Buddha, right? And so, or we might traditionally offer rice, the obuppam, right? And so we do these different kinds of offerings. So now, it's kind of neat. This is what we do during a service. Right? This is what our services consist of. It doesn't have listen to Dharma talk, right? But the stuff that we do during our service, we recite the sutras, We're able to see the Buddha and see the Pure Land. We bow, right? We're bowing to the Buddha. We're bowing even when we enter the hall. We say Nembutsu a lot, right? We've said it a whole bunch of times already. And then offering incense, making these various offerings. However, number one, the rightly established act, the Nembutsu. And the important thing, this comes from Shandao. Say it whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, without thought to the number of times or the particular circumstances. This is the most important one. Maybe this is the only one, right? We call it exclusive Nembutsu. That Nembutsu is the only thing, saying the name is the only thing necessary. Right? If we weren't able to recite the sutras, it'd be okay. Right? If we weren't able to come to temple, to be able to do all 5 of them in a ritual, it's okay. This is the one. This is the most important one, saying the Nembutsu. We still do all 5, right? But we're not doing them. Usually practice means I want to get something, or I want to get somewhere, enlightenment or birth in the Pure Land. What do I do? Oh, do this. Do the 5 right practices. That'll get you there. That's the kind of traditional understanding. But Shandao says, nope, reciting the name is the only one we need. Everything else we can dispense with. But we still do it. And so the way I understand that is, even though we're doing them, we're not doing them to try to get enlightenment. We're not doing them to try to get to the Pure Land. We're doing them in response to the Buddha. We're doing them in gratitude to the Buddha. We're doing them in praise of the Buddha, right? And so we hear of Ho Om, right? This responding to the benevolence. The way we can respond to Amita's benevolence is coming to temple, reciting the sutras, see the Naijin, saying the name, right? All of these things we can understand as Ho On, as this response in gratitude, responding to the Buddha. So that's our services. Just a couple other things I was thinking, that's not all we do, right? And you all know this, or most of you anyway, right? And so there's other temple activities that we can take part in. One thing I was thinking of is organizations, right? That we have our organizations, and today we actually have kind of a special event of the Oakland Buddhist Women's Association. We're going to have a luncheon later, and so that's why, so what I'm wearing today, let me unshare this so you can see. This is the Wagesa for the World Buddhist Women's Association Conference 2019. I think of things now in terms of pandemic. It was like right before the pandemic started, right? About 6 months before. And so, it has the Sagari Fuji here. If you look closely, this pattern here is Golden Gate Bridge, because the conference was in San Francisco. And then you don't have to look closely to see what we see all around us these days, poppies, California poppies. And so this is just such a really neat pattern. I think Reverend Endo had a big part in helping with the design of this Wagesa. And so I asked him, I texted him last night, let's wear the BWA Wagesa for today's service, because it is kind of a special day for the OBWA, for our Oakland Buddhist Women's Association. This is an organization that goes way back. Right? We do 2 special services a year here. There's several, but we do it we separate them into 2 times. Eshinni, Kakushinni, the wife and daughter of our founder Shinran, Lady Takeko Kujo, who started the BWA, the Fujinkai, right? And Lady Yoshiko Otani, the current Monshu's grandmother. Right? So these are really important women in our tradition. That's one of the neat things about Jodo Shinshu, is that everyone's equal. Right? We're all on the same level. The minister isn't better than everyone else. Men aren't better than women. No, there's none of this. There's not like really capable people and people who can't do so well. No, we're all on the same level. That's actually Shandao too. Because some kinds of Pure Land Buddhism have what's called the 9 grades, the 9 levels in the Contemplation Sutra. And the super top ones, they can awaken bodhicitta. They're the most capable. They can decide, I want to be a Buddha, and I'm going to do all these practices, and I'm going to awaken the 3 minds, and all this stuff that they get to do. The lowest level, lowest of the low, just say Nembutsu. And so a lot of Pure Land masters say, do your best, aim for as high a level as you can get to. Shandao says, no, all of the 9 level are all ordinary foolish beings, that there isn't this distinction between the 9. Right? And actually, even though I might be lowest of the low, the 3 minds can be awakened in me because of Amida. I don't have to generate it myself. So sorry, I'm getting into some of the weeds of doctrine, but there's a really important points too. This equality, egalitarianism of Jodo Shinshu has its roots in Shandao, I think, is one of the main people that Shinran uses, right? That you don't have to feel like, I don't know enough, I'm not smart enough, oh, I'm not as good as them. Maybe they could get to the Pure Land, not me. Nope. Pure Land is for anyone, everyone, right? That Amida Buddha embraces you as you are. You don't have to feel like I'm not good enough or I haven't done enough, right? That it's this Buddhism for everyone. So Shinran calls us all, we're fellow travelers. So that's the Oakland, ours is called the OBWA. Some people say OBWA. I prefer OBWA, or Oakland Buddhist Women's Association. And so, different temples will have their own abbreviations for their own Buddhist Women's Association, or Fujinkai. We used to have, I guess, a senior Fujinkai and a junior Fujinkai too, right? And so we look at the history of our Fujinkai, pretty amazing, right? This temple wouldn't be here if it weren't for Fujinkai. So much effort they've put in over the decades, over 100 years, right? And so much work, dedication that they did. But we're also always changing, right? And the Japanese community, Japanese American community developed over time. And so they made a senior Fujinkai, which I think was mainly Japanese speaking, and junior Fujinkai, which is mainly English speaking, right? And so it's kind of neat that we can get into the history of OBWA at some other point. But just realize that this organization, we still have it. Another one is Momiji Kai. Kai means gathering or group, right? And Momiji is the maples, right? And so our Momiji Kai is kind of a senior group, but it's evolving too, right? And so I think that we have the membership in Momiji Kai has increased. They meet twice a month, and they do yoga, and we have a little service, and they watch videos, and we just had our first in-person Momiji Kai in 3 years this past week. So that's an organization that's growing too. Oh, another one, Youth Club, go Rams. Youth Club is basketball, right? So this is an organization that's connected, and I bring it up because we just had a big gathering 2 nights ago, Friday night, right, of our youth club. They had their appreciation dinner and gave awards and that kind of thing. So in a way, it's kind of neat to talk about these groups because it's finally coming back, right? During the pandemic, it was really hard not to be able to gather together. But our youth club has been playing, and we had our first gathering together, and the hall was packed, right, full of kids and parents and grandparents and coaches. And so another one is this host, Ho-on service teams, right? And this is another thing that's more recent, and it was done to enable everyone to be able to participate. I know one view is it was done to try and spread the work out so that only 4 or 5 people weren't doing it. And that's kind of the obligation view, right? But another view is, no, it's to give people opportunity to participate in the daily life of the church, right? Sometimes we only come on Sunday, but other stuff happens. We have to keep the garden clean. We have to, the refreshments and everything downstairs is being done by our host group this month, Gary Tominaga's group. And so this host is just a really great idea. Ho-on, I said it before, responding to the benevolence, right? That this Ho-on, this idea of, I've been embraced by Amida Buddha, so I don't just say, okay, great, now I can just keep doing what I was doing. No, my life changes so that I just can't help but respond, right, in my life. And so one way is to be in one of these service teams and be able to participate in that activity here at the church. Sometimes people say, oh, I got to do my Ho-on. Okay, I did my Ho-on, I signed up and I checked it off for the year. I don't like that. Ho-on is something that we can't just check off and, oh, I did it for the week. I did 10 minutes or I did an hour or whatever, right? Ho-on is our whole life, right? And it's something that it changes our life, right? And we can see our lives in this new way. And so I prefer to call it host. And I like the idea of host because it's like, this is your home. Right? The temple, to be able to come back to temple after the pandemic, right, and realize, wow, such a special place. And so we want to be able to be hosts here at the church, right, taking care of it, keeping it clean, welcoming in new people, right? So I really like the idea of the host and using that term host with the understanding that we are participating in this whole Om. And so I think that this is kind of one of the benefits of being a member, right? One of the benefits of being Buddhist is being able to be part of a Sangha, the third of the three treasures that we read. I take refuge in the Sangha, right? And that's what we all are, right? We're all part of this Sangha, whether we think of it as a family, think of it as a temple, right? And this is, I think, a big part of what we do as Buddhists. Right? We can think of it on that level of what are we doing in service, what kind of practice, putting our hands together, chanting, saying the Nembutsu, right? All those things are kind of more nitty-gritty kind of Buddhist stuff, but just being part of the Sangha is what we do too, right? And taking care of the temple, watching out for each other, hanging out. When Michael was ringing the kancho and I had to go downstairs because I forgot something, I'm like, there's people still down here, they're talking really loud, and can't they hear the kancho? It's time to start. And then I realized, wait, this is amazing. It's so amazing for them to be, for you to be, you, right? For you to be here and be able to see each other. And we have some, we got some newer visitors. We got visitors that have been here for a long time but moved away, right? All kinds of possibilities, right? And to be able to see each other, be able to talk to each other. And so my kind of frustration of those people got to get up there, like quickly melted away into joy, right? This joy of seeing my Sangha, enjoying yourselves, right? And being Buddhist, right? And being here at the temple. So I just want to reiterate, for us, number one, Jodo Shinshu, the name, saying the name, Nembutsu, right? And you don't have to only do it here. It's easier, right? When I say Namo Amida Butsu, and then you say Namo Amida Butsu, and I say Namo Amida Butsu, and you say it, that's the easy one, because you're like, oh yeah, thanks for reminding me, I'll do it because you're telling me to. That's not the true Nembutsu. Right? The true Nembutsu is said whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down. Any time, any place. You don't have to think, do I need to say it 10 times? We don't worry about that. Well, I saw one of the other temples I'm going to guest speak at, and they gave me their program, and it said read 3 treasures, say Nembutsu, times 3. Right? And I got to tell them, take that off. That's incorrect. There's no set, well, in our, I guess I'm being strict here. We do it 5 times, right? I say it once, and during the chanting, we do it 5 times, right? But to me, it's not that Namo Amida Butsu 3 times. That's not really correct. We should just be saying it, right? And we might, I adopt it because it makes sense, right? I like to say Namo Amida Butsu. But I also like to say Namandab, Namandab. That's also Nembutsu. So that's why you'll hear me do 3, but then keep going, Namandab, Namandab, Namandab. And so the number of times, not important. The particular circumstances, only at church, only when the minister says it, no, anytime. Right? So this Nembutsu is the core, key. To me, this is the core. I know different ministers have different ideas of what the core of Buddhism is, but Nembutsu is one part of the core, and then Shinjin is the other. Right? The realizing, wow, Buddha embraces me as I am, foolish as I am. That to me is the core. But Nembutsu is such a big part of it. So actually we should start thinking about distributing the blue folder. Do you already have it? Wow, that's great. Don't bring it out yet though. I thought I had a picture of Zendo. There he is. Before we get the blue book out, let's close a Dharma message with Gassho, as we recite the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Okay, now you can get the blue folder out, and we'll be doing a special place. And it's under A, at the end of the A's, because it's a special place. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Okay, it's time for announcements. And I bet you thought it was going to be Robert Noguchi, but it's not. It's me. Robert couldn't be here today, so we don't have that many things to announce. If you're OBWA, stick around afterwards, and we'll gather down in the hall. One more service in April, next weekend, just regular Dharma Family Service. And then we get to May, and so the May Bushin should be out, and you can look at the calendar in there. I know several people are going to Japan for the 800th, 850th, 800th special service in Kyoto. We did our Bay District one a month or two ago, and the one for the overseas districts will be in May. So some people won't be here for some of the services. Here's one thing I want to share. Dharma School field trip, but you don't have to be Dharma School. Join us for a special field trip to the 442nd Nisei exhibit at the USS Hornet in Alameda in honor of AAPI Heritage Month. And so that's kind of coming up. It's on Saturday, May 6th. So I think it's the first Saturday in May, and it's from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it's at the Hornet, the big aircraft carrier that's there in Alameda. And so we did it last year too, and a couple of people went, and I think we had a really nice time. You do have to take some stairs. There's kind of a gangplank practically to get into the ship, but it's really, really amazing. Really nice to be able to go to it and to check out this 442nd Nisei exhibit that's there inside the ship. And I'll be doing a service. And so it'll be something we'll go. So the reason it's 11:30 to 2 is because we go early and check out the exhibits. Really neat stuff in there, planes and that kind of thing. And then at 1 p.m. we'll have the service kind of for the exhibit there. So if you're able to go, it was Dharma School, but we're opening it up to anyone who wants to go. So think about it, and please call the office or look online, and you can RSVP for this field trip to the Hornet on May 6th. Okay? I think that's about it. Why don't we conclude our service with Gassho. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, whether you're in person or online. Let's recite the Nembutsu, many of us while sitting down or standing, anytime, any place. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Namanda. Hi. Hit it, Steve. Thank you.